This program is brought to you by Allianz, your global partner for comprehensive insurance and asset management solutions.
Welcome to a new edition of Inside Grand Prix. Today, everything about the Formula One race just outside Barcelona. But first, in close-up, Spain. More than just toreros and castanets. Bienvenido a España. The Iberian Peninsula draws countless visitors with its 3,000 kilometers of coastline, colorful countryside, and a cultural heritage that was carried from here around the world. The explorers and literature of the Golden Age, the art of modernism and surrealism, they're all trademarks of Spain. Over recent years, the country's 42 million residents have discovered a completely new interest. Thanks to Fernando Alonso, Formula One is now in full bloom in Spain.
In the last few years, we built a good fans and a good Formula One culture, and every day I think improves. People are getting more and more interested in our Formula One, and when the Spanish Grand Prix arrives, I think all the country is quite exciting about this event, and I'm also very excited when arrive the Spanish Grand Prix.
Barcelona, a proud city, is the venue for the Spanish Grand Prix. Many regard it as one of the most beautiful and exciting cities in the world. As all over the country, here too the Latin joie de vivre is infectious and leaves you hungry for more. Sometimes tranquilo, sometimes with gusto. The Spanish celebrate their festivities as they come, often in the process turning night into day.
When I first started going to Spain, I didn't really enjoy that much because I like to eat early and go to bed early. But now in Spain, you know, I'm getting over the years I've got a lot more used to it, and I like their way. They're very friendly people, and they've been pretty laid back.
Once accustomed to the mentality and joie de vivre, Barcelona, capital of Catalonia, offers something for everyone. Gaudi's Sagrada Familia, an unfinished landmark, symbolic of a city in a state of permanent change, where life can be really enjoyed. A city to which many F1 drivers have also lost their hearts.
Well, I think the city centre is spectacular. It's we know Barcelona's a beautiful city, and even at night you can, of course, you have the beautiful restaurants, and there's quite a good atmosphere there all year round. So it's a very, very nice place to visit, and of course the cycling. You have the Pyrenees, and you have a lot of light cycling outside Barcelona and in Spain in general. So that's good for me.
The Iberian Peninsula, a land of black bulls, mountains and high plains, between the Mediterranean and the Atlantic. Spain, well worth a trip for more than just Formula One. Coming up, we take stock. What do the drivers think of the new 2006 regulations? But first, let's take a lap of the Circuit de Catalunya. On the Costa Brava in northeast Spain, just outside Barcelona, is the Circuit de Catalunya. The teams have been coming here for winter testing for some years, but it's only recently that the locals have properly caught the Formula One bug.
Since I've been in Formula One, how the Spanish are supporting Formula One has just totally changed. And Barcelona, we're there a lot. We do a lot of testing at this circuit, and then to do another race there is generally, it's a challenging track, but also not boring. But because we do so much running there, we drive there a lot. It's not unique.
The drivers know the track like the back of their hand. Nevertheless, they need every bit of that knowledge if they're to hold their own in the Elf chicane. Over 300 kilometers an hour is their speed as they approach.
Yes, turn
1's probably where you've got the best chance to overtake in Barcelona, simply because of the long straight before it, where you can get nicely in the slipstream, then veer out and overtake. It's not such an easy corner either, because you approach it at such an incredible speed and you've got to brake down hard into third gear. Also thinking at the same time about the next few corners, as it's all bunched together there, and that certainly doesn't make things easy. Barcelona, one of the most demanding circuits of the season. Almost 300 again approaching Repsol corner, then down to 120 in second gear. The first third of the lap alone calls for enormous stamina. Places where you have to brake hard are fairly rare. Instead, you burn a lot of rubber, the tyres get very warm, and it's flat out for 60% of the way.
To Barcelona, we take the hardest compounds all year. It's because of the cornering speeds. There is 4 corners, right-handers, which are all around anywhere between 220 and 260 kilometers an hour. This has a really hard effect on the tyres.
The drivers are given a hard time in Barcelona too. In the cockpit, their bodies are put under a constant strain. I can certainly confirm that during the first few tests my head was always hanging out to the left of the car. It never stops, there's one corner after another, always going the same way, always getting longer. Your head gets really very, very heavy. So, chin up and give it all you've got. Overtaking on this circuit is extremely difficult. Leading from start to finish is not at all rare, providing, of course, your setup's right.
It is normally a 2 or 3 stop strategy because of the penalty on the tyres as well. And normally you set the car up quite stiff there because of the high speed.
The New Holland towards the end of the lap is the last of the fast right-handers. 230 kilometers an hour leaving the bend. And then full throttle onto the almost 1,000 meter long main straight of the Circuit de Catalunya. In a moment, how did the Spanish Grand Prix end 30 years ago? But now to the youngest Formula One world champion ever. Fernando Alonso. National hero. And pin-up boy. He's the youngest driver ever to take pole position. The youngest ever to win a Grand Prix. And the youngest Formula One world champion of all time.
At the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you are champion with 24 or 28, but for sure it's better to be young and to have a competitive car and to have the possibility to fight for the championships. And I had this great opportunity in my life, and I'm champion now, so really with 24 I achieved the maximum in my life, so I have to find new targets now.
Journalists around the globe call him El Matador. The fans at home have crowned him the Prince of Asturias. His triumphs on the world's Grand Prix circuits have ignited a wave of excitement here at home. Today, all of Spain is at his feet, a country kissed awake from Formula One slumbers.
Yeah, always the people recognize me when we go on the motorway, and the people stop later on to give me a cup or something to sign. Always some stories.
Little Nando sat in a cart for the first time, aged just 3. It quickly became clear to all onlookers that the boy from Oviedo was an exceptional talent, made of very special stuff. After making his Formula One debut in 2001 with Minardi, he was signed up a year later by Flavio Briatore, and the success story began.
I arrived in Renault with 20 years old, and I grew up with the team. We improved all together, and now to develop the team from nothing to the world champion, and for me the same, from nothing like driver to be world champion, is a fantastic feeling.
Renault and he caused a great changing of the guard in Formula One, the end of the Schumacher era. Alonso's strengths, consistency, precision, and an extraordinary feel for each situation. In 2005, his Renault was the most reliable car on the circuit. In 2006, the first few races have also shown that the new R26 remains the car to beat.
We start with the championship. We are the number one in the car. I mean, we are very proud of that, and we are the team to beat. I mean, we done very important job this winter in the construction of the new car and the new engine, and it look like we are competitive.
From hunter to hunted, from rising star to top favorite. Now the champion's working hard to defend his Formula One crown, with no hint at all of being tired of success.
Every season you start with the same motivation to beat the opponents, to beat the others, and in 2006 will be the same, to win again and to be the number one in 2007.
The 24-year-old accepts his new role, accepting that of the idol. The quiet, reserved Iberian, a role model, popular hero, and the first of a new breed of drivers whose best years have only just begun. Fernando Alonso. A move to McLaren Mercedes in 2007 is already signed and sealed. His great aim now is to leave Renault in style, ideally as drivers' champion for the second time. Coming up in Safety Focus, a review of this season's rule changes. But first, in Techno, the Friday drivers. Every team relies on them, and every team needs their feedback. Whenever they turn it on, they're the key providers of information for technicians and engineers. Some are in the spotlight, others largely behind the scene. Test drivers in Formula One. Be it Luca Badoer at Ferrari, Robert Doornbos at Red Bull, or Alexander Wurz, who's been in Formula One since back in '97. This season, it's for the Williams F1 team that he's acting as third man, with diligence and great stamina. The most demanding part of Formula One's definitely testing. Driving races too, of course. The pressure, racing against the others, not making any mistakes, but after 60 or 70 laps, the race is over. However, when we're testing, we sometimes do 2, 3 or 4 days back-to-back, covering the distance of at least 1, sometimes 2, or even up to 2.5 to 3 races a day. Fiorano, Ferrari's own test circuit, and Luca Badoer's home patch. He sees to it that the cars perform just right for Schumacher & Co., a test driver dedicated to his work.
This is, for me, 9th season with Ferrari, and I'm very happy. It's a very important job, a test driver job. I do really a lot of kilometers during the season, and I have a big responsibility. So I drive the car, I drive the best car, and for me it's a very good situation.
Badoer's place of work in Fiorano is just a few kilometers away from Ferrari's main base. With all the necessary equipment at hand, it's here that the engineers adjust and fine-tune the cars. Whenever Badoer rolls out of the pits to go testing, ahead of him lie around 3,000 meters per lap. The track offers almost every kind of condition. Long straights, tight corners, the car can really be put to the test. When the test drive's over, the next important part of the job begins. Analyzing, adapting, making potential changes, optimum preparation. Another skill that the test drivers need is to be able to adopt as far as possible the style of the driver who'll be racing the car later. In contrast to Formula One old hands like Ferrari, new teams like Red Bull are practically starting from scratch. Test driver Robert Doornbos has only been in Formula One for 2 years, but hopes to progress from being a Friday driver to a Sunday driver.
Well, in many aspects, I think it's very important for a top team like Red Bull to have a third driver, especially during the race weekends, as I can help the team pick the tires on Friday and do the tire development on Friday. And it's a great chance for me to be in the picture.
Input, output, in constant interplay. In the battle for the champion's title, both test driver and car are always on test. Only if both are in perfect harmony can the desired success actually be achieved. Time for a short break, but we'll be right back with all the key facts on the Spanish Grand Prix. Then in Safety Focus, we report on what the drivers think of this season's new regulations. Don't go away.
Allianz, Insurance and Asset Management. Allianz, Insurance and Asset Management.
Welcome back to Inside Grand Prix. Coming up, news and facts. But first, in Safety Focus, for better or for worse, the rule changes under review. The 2006 season's now 5 races old, and a first look back leaves one thing clear. It's a Formula One year full of surprises. Old champions are back. Newcomers are doing impressively well. And there's not much between triumph and despair. Formula One is now more exciting than for many years. The new regulations have worked. I think the new regulations for this year have brought a bit more life into Formula One, especially the pit stops and the qualifying system. The qualifying's also really great now for the drivers. Things go this way and that, and you've got to stay on the ball the whole time. It's a real buzz. The 3 Saturday sessions have breathed new life into the battle for pole. Gone are the days of the fastest cars automatically coming first on the grid. The different amounts of fuel are more important than ever. And the relaxed tyre regulations are bringing together precisely what a pit stop should have: refueling and a tyre change. Strategy games for specific tracks.
Well, the first thing you look at is tyre degradation, and that is how much lap time degradation you have over, say, a 20-lap stint. You put that into your simulation. You then put in the fuel burn effect, because as you're burning fuel off, the car is getting lighter, so the car is going quicker because it has less fuel, but it's going slower because the tyres are getting older. So you have a balance there between those two things. Then the third parameter is how long the pit lane is, so how long it takes you to do a stop. And those 3 things you feed into your strategy program. Try different strategies: 2 stop, 3 stop, 1 stop. And then once you decide what strategy you should take, you then look at the number of laps you should do.
Ahead of the season, the great unknown, the V8 engine variable. The main challenge is here to compensate for the loss of power and to be able to run at high revs over a period of 2 race weekends. At first, reliability was often the Achilles heel. Once again, in 2006, the data analysts have had lots to do. Heat damage, defective pistons, constant fine-tuning to the engine. New computer simulations are worked out, which then have to face reality on the test track. The way the 8-cylinder engine behaves is too new, too different. Yet race by race, the engine's performance is enhanced.
Naja, ich meine, das Fahren mit V10-Motoren mit 9.
Well, driving with the V10 engine in the 950 to 970 horsepower, that was like riding on a cannonball. And now at 740 horsepower, it's still the same cannonball, as we're now much faster around corners thanks to the softer tires that are now being used. So it's still the absolute peak of motorsport, still the fastest there is.
Es ist immer noch, oder es ist absolut die Königsklasse im Motorsport, das schnellste, was es.
We're getting around the circuits just as quickly as last year, even though we've got less power. Changes are being made to the tires so quickly that we're already at the point again where you say, wow, that's already taking these cars to the limit. But then that's the whole idea.
Es ist schon am Limit, diese Autos zu fahren. Aber das ist schön, das taugt mir.
The FIA's constant tinkering with the regulations repeatedly sets the teams new tasks. For the engineers in the workshop, there's extremely little room left for them to maneuver. Technical progress is feverishly sought, as fast as possible, for the fastest possible car. However, the strict rules and standards are stipulated to the last millimetre. It's a matter of perspective.
Grand Prix drivers are about as safe as tennis players these days in terms of the injuries they're likely to, because those safety regulations have been great. So if there's a big rule change, if there's a bit more freedom, it's very exciting, it's fascinating, it gives you the opportunity to do a clever thing and beat the others. But that rarely happens now, actually, despite the fact that there is a bigger budget and racing's very, very competitive. The freedom the engineers have to do interesting things is pretty well left only in the electronics. Most of the clever things we used to do, the suspension, cunning things we used to do with the aerodynamics, have all been banned.
Yet both are possible. Maximum safety and thrilling races. The season so far has shown that this high-tech sport's officials were right. And who, if not Formula One, will always find new ways to do things. Always push performance up one more level. Now we turn the clock back to the Spanish Grand Prix of 1976. When Formula One arrived in the Spanish city of Jarama in early May, there was an enthusiastic welcome from the crowds. Everyone wanted to see who'd be the first to beat Ferrari. Having won the previous race in America, Clay Regazzoni was the driver of the hour. Best qualifier for the third time already was James Hunt, who shared the front row with Niki Lauda. Patrick Depailler in the sole new Tyrrell P34 was the third on the grid. Starting lights were still a rarity in 1976. A flag, a good eye, and quick reactions defined the procedure. At the start of this fourth race of the season, James Hunt again came close off second best to Niki Lauda. No less than 26 cars sped uphill to the first corner. Niki Lauda seemed to be able to pull away with ease. Behind him, the others were all disciplined enough not to try to win the race on the very first bend. With an electric start, Vittorio Brambilla in the Orange March initially managed to move up to third. By lap 5, Patrick Depailler in the Tyrrell and Jochen Mass in the McLaren had recovered their starting positions. On the early laps, Lauda and Hunt were around half a second faster than all the others and soon pulled away. At the halfway point in the race, James Hunt managed to take the lead. Niki Lauda had suspension problems in the Ferrari and couldn't hold the Englishman back. Jochen Mass was in a safe third place until lap 65, when engine problems forced him to retire. It was bad luck too for Ken Tyrrell and his team, as the revolutionary P34's debut ended prematurely in a Spanish safety fence following brake failure. As James Hunt began his final lap, he had a lead of over 30 seconds and knew that no one could take victory from him. However, what he couldn't know was that at the post-race checks in the Parc Fermé, his McLaren would turn out to be too wide and get disqualified on the spot. Hunt took it all with a smile and didn't let it spoil his good mood, but the decision was binding.
It's a tragic thing for James and McLaren because I don't think that difference would have been an overall difference as far as the race is concerned. However, it's a rule, and I'm glad to see that somebody stuck by and made it work.
Well, I think in the past the rules have been made and people haven't really stuck to them completely. They've all gone a little bit, it's like walking a very thin tightrope, and people have walked over it one way or another from time to time. And I think maybe someone got caught on the wrong side of the wire it's as simple as that.
Had you any idea that the car might be thrown out?
Well, yeah, about an hour afterwards they told us that there was a problem.
I meant before.
No, I don't know. I just drive the damn thing.
2 months later, James Hunt got first place back, and so victory over Niki Lauda. With his third place, Gunnar Nilsson celebrated the first podium finish of his career, and the fans had seen that Niki Lauda and Ferrari could be beaten after all. And now for our news and facts. The cradle of mobility is located in Germany. On the 19th of May, the new Mercedes-Benz Museum opens in Stuttgart. 120 years of automobile history, 1,500 exhibits, and over 16,000 square meters of display space. All motorsports fans, please note.
Er sieht natürlich hier erstmalig.
You can see here for the first time the entire history of motorsport from 1898 to the present day.
90 bis in die Gegenwart.
1900, the first racing car, the Mercedes Simplex. 40 horsepower and a top speed of 80 kilometers an hour. It must have been a devil to drive. 1936, the first Silverado engine, already over 400 horsepower. The birth of a legend. One that lives on today in Formula One. A museum to excite every motor racing enthusiast. She is blonde, pretty, and with her speed has already often put the fear of God into her male adversaries. For the first time in DTM, the sprightly mom appeared at the Seat Leon Supercoppa without her most loyal fans, husband Ralf Schumacher and son David. Yes, he's always asking me when I'm finally going to bring my race car home, as he'd really like to see it, so I told him I could bring back a picture. No, Mum, he said, a picture won't do. I want to see the car and sit in it. Yet she didn't have to do entirely without support from the family. Ralph called just before the start. What strategy he may have given her, we don't know. The fact is that in the two races, Cora came 16th and 18th. The Brembo engineers know it well. The hardest braking point on the Circuit de Catalunya comes immediately after the long main straight. Here the drivers brake incredibly hard from a top speed of 315, making it all the more important that the tires and brakes get up to temperature on the warm-up laps. During this braking procedure, the drivers have to endure 4G. That was Inside Grand Prix. We'll see you again for the Monaco Grand Prix.
This program was brought to you by Allianz, your global partner for comprehensive insurance and asset management solutions.